Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the world. My name is Blackjack. Welcome back to the channel. As always, today we will be doing a YouTube comment section deck tech for you. Today it is by the user Vitamin Clutch, who's a personal friend of mine and gave me essentially a dealer's choice. So I have decided to go with number one here, where they say build a deck that you enjoy, that you've never built, and tell us why you like it and why you wouldn't build it. So I built Felothar, the Steadfast, and before we go any further, if you have any interest in me putting a deck together for you and making a video about it, in the comment section down below, I'm looking for any of the following metrics: a theme, any pet cards, a budget, and a commander, and I'd be happy to put something together and maybe give you some inspiration before you put your next deck together. So, Felothar, my reasoning for building this deck. Okay, so I've said multiple times on this channel, my favorite part about Commander is I love to build commanders that utilize cards that, in any typical sense, are not good. What I mean by that is, let's look at Bedrock Tortoise. It's a 4 mana 0/6 turtle. As long as it's your turn, creatures you control have hexproof, and each creature you control assigns damage with toughness rather than power. So, by every normal metric, this card is unplayable, useless, garbage. But in a deck like this that is focused on utilizing toughness as its main mechanic, it's something that I find very fun, being able to showcase cards that otherwise are unplayable, but here can be all-stars or at least important role players. I love to do in Commander. I love the color pairing of Abzan, which is white, black, green. It's very good at dirtling and not winning the game, which is what I'm all about. I don't play Commander to win the game often. I normally play it to put an engine together, get that engine moving as fast as I possibly can, and then die in a blaze of glory to someone who's actually trying to win the game. That is normally my version, my way of playing Commander to its fullest potential. The only reason I haven't personally built this deck, and I still might, is because I do have Bilbo Birthday Celebrant, which is in the same color pie of Abzan, and obviously doesn't play the same cards, but is similar to how it plays out. What I mean by that is, again, Bilbo does not win the game quickly. He just dirtles, he gains life. Eventually, he dips out of his own party when everybody shows up, if you get lucky. And maybe you win the game, maybe you don't, but it's all just about the build up and the anticipation of that party coming, and once that party happens, you've won the game regardless of whether or not you actually finish the game. In the same sense with Felothar, I want to be churning and burning a bunch of defender creatures, drawing multiple cards every turn. I want to attack with a 0/6 and deal 6 damage. And once I've hit those few personal goals, I've done it. I've won the game on a personal level, and at that point, it just doesn't matter if I lose or not. So, let's go over Felothar, the Steadfast. If you don't know what it does, it's relatively new. It's a 0/5 creature for 4 mana, and it has each creature assign combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and creatures can attack as though they didn't have defender. So you can also pay 3 mana to sack another creature and draw cards equal to that creature's toughness, discard equal to power. The reason this commander is so cool to me is, again, it utilizes bad cards, one, and two, it's consistent card draw. So on your commander, at least when I'm building the commander, I want it to be either card draw, mana ramp, or incredibly synergistic with my deck. If it doesn't hit one of those three metrics or multiple of those three, it's nearly unplayable in my eyes. So, ton of creatures, including the commander. It's 30 creatures total. We have Axebane Guardian, which is mana ramp as well as a defender creature. Beast Whisper, obviously, once a third of our deck is drawing cards because of this, it becomes very good. Bedrock Tortoise is a backup to our commander, so if our commander's been removed a bunch of times, we do have a couple cards like this that allow us to still attack and deal damage with toughness. Blight Pile is an interesting way to just kind of tap it and have a bunch of people lose life. Carven Caryatid is a way to draw cards with Defender. Crashing Drawbridge can give a creature haste. Crystal Barricade will give us hexproof and prevent all non-combat damage that be dealt to other creatures. So if somebody perhaps, lightning bolts a crashing, or, well, that has more than 3 toughness. If somebody lightning bolts an Axebane Guardian while we have Crystal Barricade out, it'll actually prevent that damage, which is pretty cool. Doran the Siege Tower is another way for us to assign damage with toughness rather than power. Fortified Rampart is just a 0/6 for 2 mana. So there's a lot more defenders than what I picked. When I originally put this deck together, I ended up with like 50 creatures and I had to cut a bunch of them. So I focused on the ones that either had incredible rates, their power toughness was very, very good for their cost. It did something in addition to just being a big toughness creature, or it gave us mana. Overgrown Battlement is one of the best mana ramp pieces here. It is also the beginning of our mana ramp package. So we have Axebane, Overgrown Battlement, we have Sylvan Caryatid, Vine Trails, Wall of Roots, Cultivate, Farseek, Kodama's Reach, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, 3 Visits, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Soul Rain. So it's the same 10 that I would put in any green deck, but here we've gone above and beyond and added an 11th with Wall of Roots, a 12th with the Vine, a 13th with the Caryatid, and a 14th with the Battlement, and that's all in an effort to hit our commander on turn 3 as consistently as possible. So again, I'm pretty sure, according to the statistics, if you have 14 2-mana ramp pieces in your deck, you have roughly a 75% chance by turn 2 to draw and be able to cast one of those pieces. So 3/4 of the time you're able to get your commander out on turn 3 in this deck, which makes it much more consistent and is much more fun because that's the whole point of the game plan here. Perimeter Captain, whenever a creature with Defender blocks, gain 2 life. Sapling's a cool one, does not have Defender, but it's consistent card draw and it's indestructible. Excuse me. Seedborn Muse. It is the first of 3 of our game changers. We do have 3 total in order to stay below bracket 4. So I do want to make sure most of my decks are around bracket 3. So the 3 I picked were just the most synergistic with this deck. Being able to untap all of our massive blocking creatures after hitting for a ton of damage, or being able to sacrifice stuff to draw cards with our commander every upkeep, every turn is going to be great. Sidar Kondo makes it so pretty much all of our creatures can't be blocked. Stalwart is a pump effect, so when you read this and it says other creatures you control Defender get +0/+2, basically in this deck what that means is all your other creatures get +2/+2. So for 2 mana, having a double Anthem effect is pretty powerful. Towering Titan, before I built this, I'd never seen this card before. It's awesome. Enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it, where X is the total toughness of other creatures you control. Sack a creature Defender, all creatures gain trample until end of turn. This is going to be an absolute win condition that is going to just take players out of the game. One thing I will say about this deck is this came out at the same time as, I think his name was Betor Kin to All or something like that, who I think is probably a better commander. So it says flying 5/7, 5 mana. Beginning your unstep, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. Total toughness 20 or greater, untap. Total toughness 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life. So I think this card is better as a commander, but again, it felt a little bit too easy, and I also didn't want to play a deck that was so committed to having a bunch of stuff on the board and being susceptible to a board wipe. I already play decks like dinosaurs where I already have to show my hand, so to speak, and deploy a bunch of stuff, and one board wipe is very, very hard to come back from. I wanted this to be more of a I have 2 or 3 creatures out and that's going to get the job done over time versus I have 7 creatures out. I'm activating Baitor every turn and I'm just hoping that I can keep all that and I don't just lose the game to a board wipe. Tree of Perdition as well as Redemption. I mean, at the rate of 4 mana for basically being a 13/13 is incredibly powerful, and then obviously we can tap them to switch life totals. Tristani is a good way to gain life. Walking Bulwark is a cool way that we can wake up something and give it haste. Wall of Blossoms replaces itself. Wall of Omens replaces itself. Wall of Reverence is a way to gain life, plus a 6/6 Defender flying is pretty good in here. Weathered Sentinels, Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample, and then when it does attack, it gets +3/+3. Very powerful card. Finally, Welcoming Vampire. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enters, we draw a card. So this is going to be the part where we have consistent card draw. And this goes back to what I love about this deck and what I love about Commander in general. Welcoming Vampire is a good card and sees homes, or sees a home in a lot of different decks, like vampires, for example. But it's not synonymous with card draw, so it's not consistent. It's not playable in all Commander decks, but it's especially good in this one because pretty much all of our creatures have 2 or less power. Dusk Till Dawn. This is going to be the exact same theory. So we have a bunch of cards that interact with board wipes depending on the power of the creatures. So Dusk is destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Fell the Mighty is destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. So we can just say our commander, and any creature with power greater than 0 is destroyed. Slaughter the Strong. So you basically can keep creatures with total power 4 or less and sacrifice all the rest. The Battle of Bywater. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Tip the Scales. Sack a creature. Give all creatures -X/-X, where X is that creature's toughness. Wave of Reckoning. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So we have a lot of board wipes in here, and pretty much all of them don't affect our board at all. So we have 4 or 5 one-sided board wipes, one-sided Cyclonic Rift for creatures, and then we also have the benefit of being able to get the other half of these cards. So Dawn, we get to return all of them from our graveyard to our hand that have died. Expel, choose a number between 0 and 10, destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. That's another in the board wipe category where we can just say 0 and destroy all creatures with power greater than 0. And then we can get these cards back with, again, things like Dawn, and then things like Reunion of the House. Return any number of target creatures with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's going to be literally our entire deck, so whatever creatures are in the graveyard, you just get to get them all back. We have, in the instant section, Akroma's Will and Heroic Intervention are both ways to protect our board. So if we do commit more than a couple creatures, we can protect them with Heroic Intervention, and then at some point we could also use Akroma's Will to give our stuff double strike and flying and pretty much just take players out of the game. Mythos and Swords are just great removal pieces in these colors. We have Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. We do want to protect our creatures that generate mana, and we do want to protect our creatures that have a lot of toughness, including our commander. Meek Stone is a cool piece. No creatures with power greater than 2 untap. So we get to untap all of our creatures, but pretty much no one else is going to be untapping their creatures. Enchantments, we have Assault Formation, which is again another version of our commander. If our commander has been killed too many times, we can use this to wake up creatures and attack. Assemble the Players is another cool card. You can look at the top card of your library at any time, and once during your turns you can cast a creature with power 2 or less from the top, which is going to be always, as long as there's a creature on top. Aura Shards is the best artifact enchantment removal in these colors, especially when you're playing such a mass of creatures. Brave the Sands gives all of our creatures vigilance and be able to block an additional person. Guardian Project is good card draw, as well as Phyrexian Arena. Smile at Death is a new card I'm trying. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 creatures with power 2 or less from the graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter on each of them. So it's basically a double reanimate that we don't lose life for. And since all of our creatures... Actually, let's make sure. But I'm pretty sure every creature in this deck has less than 2 power. Yep. No. Blight Pile is 3. So aside from Blight Pile, you can get back literally every creature in your graveyard is able to be resurrected by Smile at Death. Smothering Tithe, again, one of the 3 game changers I picked in here, in addition to Aura Shards and Seedborn Muse, I think are the 3 best for this deck. Stone Skin is just a funny way to take a player out of the game, out of nowhere. So if we attack with our commander who's already dealt maybe a couple of damage to somebody, maybe we can just randomly give him plus O plus 10, which is essentially plus 10 plus 10, and deal an additional 10 damage. The lands, nothing crazy to mention here. We have Access Tunnel, which can give quite literally every creature in our deck unblockable. And then we also play Vault of the Archangel, which is always a cool combat trick to have in Abzan. So that's it. Again, this is the type of commander I like. You dirtle, you hit personal win conditions that you've set for yourself. You draw a lot of cards, you do your thing, and then whether you win or not, it doesn't matter because you played the game that you wanted to play. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, Godspeed.